One of the strangest subgenres of movies, in terms of why on earth does this exist, is films about televised death matches. Notable examples are Battle Royale, Rollerball, and perhaps most famously, The Hunger Games. The way the genre works is, within the story, there's a TV show, and in the show, the contestants compete for prizes, but in fact, they're probably gonna end up 6 feet underground rather than be able to enjoy those prizes at any future point. The 1987 Running Man, based on a novel by Stephen King, fits neatly into this genre and shares many of the other film's strengths and weaknesses, particularly in comparison to The Hunger Games. Running Man is also reminiscent of stuff like Network, The Truman Show, Total Recall, stories that are all about the corrupting nature of media and manipulation of reality as a form of control. Overall, Running Man is a decent entry in the genre, particularly if you're into science fiction, but it's maybe hard to recommend for the casual fan. Let's have a chat about the plot. It's the late 2010s, and American society has become a deeply propagandized dystopia, where the rich have everything and the poor struggle to feed themselves. Arnold Schwarzenegger stars as Ben Richards, a police officer who receives orders to fire on a group of protesters at a food riot. He refuses the order, but his colleagues carry it out, killing the protesters. As a punishment, the government puts out a doctored video showing Richards as the perpetrator of the killings, and after capturing him, sentence him to take part in The Running Man, a state-funded television program where contestants always end up dead and dismembered, partly as an example of what happens when you go against the regime, and partly just for the entertainment of the crowd. As Richards is forced onto the show, he vows that not only will he survive, but that he will be back. A nice in-joke for the already massively famous Arnie. As Richards survives in the game and starts to win over the crowd, he becomes a symbol of resistance to the government. And the hunt for the original footage of the food riot will not only prove his innocence, but also threaten the government itself. There's so much to like about this movie. There are so many clever ideas packed in here, and these ideas are probably more relevant, more urgent to deal with today than they were in the 1980s. So much of The Hunger Games, for example, seems to follow the same ideas as The Running Man, the greasy game show host, the bloodthirsty crowd, the state propaganda, the manipulation of footage, the behind-the-scenes players who get the main characters ready to fight, the way that the identity and actions of the main character slowly become tangled up with more general resistance to the government. I particularly enjoyed the sequence leading up to the start of the show. The build-up to the broadcast time, swapping between the on and off-stage parts of the television studio, was really well paced, which is why it's such a shame that visually it's so very dated and old-fashioned, very 1980s, in a way that's probably off-putting for a casual viewer. This comes through in the opening credits, costumes, hairstyles, Captain Freedom's yoga class. You could say, okay, this was almost made 40 years ago. Of course it looks dated, but Running Man came out about 5 years after Blade Runner, which still sets the standard for what a sci-fi future looks like. Also, sometimes the acting can be a little bit much, particularly from the hunters, whose job it is to find and eliminate the contestants on the show. The guy who sings opera is particularly awkward, but this is actors playing characters who are themselves playing characters. You could view it as they're deliberately hamming it up for the crowd. In many ways, the hunters are just murderous exaggerations of what already exists in real life. If you're a sci-fi fan or a fan of 80s movies more generally, I'd encourage you to look past the dodgy visuals and check this movie out. It's awkward and unpolished by modern standards, but approach it as an interesting experiment and it can be a rewarding watch.